Welcome back to the third episode of the collaboration with Jaden Robison with
Blue Collar
Future. God, I just totally blanked on that. And then Skylar with Utah Hustlers. And we are going to have a great conversation today about money. This is one of my favorite topics. I really love this conversation. So I'm looking forward to this. And you guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of this. And let's talk about money.
Money. Everyone wants it, and a lot of people seem to not have enough of it.
See, and that's the thank you for saying that, because one of the biggest things, it's actually like a personal desire and goal of mine, is to change the stigma of money in America, because it's important. Like, it's shoved down our throats that money's not important and you're evil if you have a lot of money and all of these things, right? Like, money is important. It's a tool, it's a resource. And I've been super broke, barely had any money. And, now to the point where my wife and I can, take care of our expenses and growing. And I'd rather take that anytime, the growing, the being able to do some things and still progressing than not, right? So, yeah. You guys, what's your relationship experience, everything with money?
Yeah, well, since I started my podcast, I talk a lot about work, and it kind of made me a little bit hyper aware of people's situations, and pretty much most people are not happy no matter what. And you get a lot of people that have a lot of money that aren't happy. So it's interesting to think about, because we do want more money, but it doesn't actually make your life good. No. There are people with no money that are super happy, awesome. And there's people that have, that make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year and they feel like they don't have any.
They're completely miserable.
Or because they spend it all on things that other people, to try to please other people or try to impress other people, and then they still don't have any money because they spend it all. So it's a interesting topic.
Very interesting.
Yeah, my definition of success has to do with having success in these four areas that we're talking about over these 4 series.
Yeah.
So the mind, if you're happy or mentally healthy, and have the mental toughness to achieve do hard things, and then body, if I'm healthy and I can lift my kids up and I can play with them and live a long, healthy life, not be sick all the time. That's success. And then having enough money where I don't have to worry about anything, where I can provide for myself, my family, my kids, and give to the community, give back. And then our last one's relationships, where if your relationships are good, I have a good relationship with my, future family, wife, kids, family, brothers, sisters-in-laws, things like that. To me, if all those 4 areas are in line or in order, that's success for me.
I love that.
I think a lot of people look at money as where if they can get rich and make a certain amount, then they're successful. But what if, like you were saying, if you're making a lot of money and you don't have good relationships, then you're going to be unhappy, right?
Well, look at what is pushed in the world. So on one hand, having money's bad, but on the other hand, the only thing that's ever pushed from the time you're a kid is to go to school and go to college and get a career and a job.
Yeah.
And then to spend that on, first of all, on a bunch of school, and then spend it on a mortgage and buy an expensive car that you can't really afford, and do all these things. But it's not like a conscious, buy what you want. It's this is what you need to do. And there's so much effort put on people to become worker bees, but nobody focuses on the other parts of your life that makes you successful, which your relationships, your health and fitness, your mindset. It's all about that. It's all about your job, your career. And you don't go to school to be a good husband. You don't go to school to be a good father. You don't go to school to learn how to work out, really, or to take care of yourself. It's all about, getting that production in. So there's a weird dichotomy there. On one hand, it's bad, but on the other hand, that's all people focus on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And I mean, in society, we blow all of them completely out of proportion.
Yep.
We've had, in the previous episodes talking about the mind and fitness and things of all of those natures, all of it's blown out of perspective. So you can take money way too far, but then you know, I look at it as a negative in the sense of, you know, if I'm not being a provider for my family, like that's a negative too, like a big time negative. If my daughter needed some type of medical something that maybe insurance won't pay for or something, well, I'm going to freaking figure out a way to provide that, right? And money is the only thing that can do that. So there's so much value, but we blow it at a perspective in so many ways, you know, keeping up with the Joneses and, you know, showing off and things like that. Like, I'll be honest, like it's easy to get caught up in that. And when I was looking at like this new year of 2024, like financially, I'm like, you know, what do I really want to accomplish? I was like, man, I'd like to, you know, get a couple things paid off. You know, my wife and I don't have a lot of debts at all, like very little debt, but I'm like, man, I'd still like, you know, I got a truck, that we've had for a couple of years. I'm like, I'd like to pay that off just because, you know, have that extra money put somewhere, like to get some more money saved up, more investments, just because it's all good things. It gives me the flexibility to do things and to experience things and that security, right? You know, I know for a big thing, I've studied a lot of like women and men, and the difference is women, you know, one of their big things is security. And the more successful I get, I can tell my wife just the security she receives from it gives me satisfaction, because I can kind of see her like, he's got it. Like he's taking care of us financially and like covering those things, right? So it's just an interesting connection with things. I want to kind of change gears a little bit and talk about our growing ups, because I kind of feel like we all maybe have a little bit of different experience. I'll go first to share that. I think one of the reasons why I am so passionate about money and the education of money is because of my growing up. I've got really good parents. I love my parents. My mom and dad are really hardworking, incredible people, but I don't come from money in any way. Honestly, some of the subconscious programming, coaching things that I've had to go through is actually from when I was a kid and watching my parents fight about money and stress about money. All my aunts, uncles, like I don't come from a family on either side, my mom's side, my dad's side, anywhere. Nobody had lots of money. And there was like just a massive amount of scarcity and negativity towards money. And I always looked around and seen other families that were like, man, they went on a freaking vacation. That'd be cool, you know? Or, you know, maybe they have a house, or just, you know, you see what they're doing. And I'm like, man, I'd love that. And, you know, a lot of those things never happened. But I just look at that negativity towards money. I'm like, you know, people are doing it. People have it. They're able to pay their bills and do those things. Like, why are my mom and dad stressing and fighting and, you know, all of those things with money? Like, this is ridiculous. So it has actually been a personal mission of mine to learn what money is, how money works, and how we can use it in a way to benefit our lives. And there's a lot of negativity around that. My family, you know, there's a lot of my family that say things and don't really support what I'm doing. But I'm like, you know, I don't care. Like, I want to change my family tree forever because of, I know what I went through as a kid, stressing, worrying, scared. You know, there was a time where, you know, my mom and dad were like, hey, you know, they could come take the ranch and everything. We're so behind on stuff. And that freaks a kid out, right? Freaks a kid out bad. And I'm like, I will never, ever, ever put my wife and my kids through that. So that's where I come from in the sense of money, of just creating that security and that abundance. I mean, all of you listeners, you could step outside and just look. You guys, there's billions of dollars in infrastructure, buildings, all the things that happen. There's billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars. That doesn't mean it's bad. It means it's out there, it's happening. So there's nothing wrong with collecting some of it for the benefit of your own self, right? So my childhood of growing up is a big influence on just my family tree of money. So what about you guys?
For me growing up, like I never really felt like my parents never had enough money. I knew we weren't like swimming in it. But one thing I noticed is it seemed like my dad was constantly working, like always on the clock with his business and trying to get money. So it kind of like seemed like top priority. And sometimes the things that he bought were almost like more important than us, because I think of, you know, how much work it took for him to get that money.
Yeah.
But I will say that what it seemed like, and I've heard my mom say this, is she noticed that like it seemed like how well the business did. Like doubled or tripled after my family started getting into personal development. So it started with my mom.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
Yeah.
Because it started with my mom. She wanted to go to this 3-day seminar, but couldn't quite get herself to like go do it. And so she paid for me and my brother to go, and we had no idea what the heck we were going to. So we go. It totally changed us, and my mom saw that, and eventually, like most all of my family went. You had to be 18 to go to it. So my 2 younger brothers didn't go at first, but it seemed like right after that, that's when my dad's business started doing a lot better, and they started making a lot more money. And so, yeah, I did notice the switch between like, we're doing okay to, okay, where they don't have to worry about it. They're also not buying nice sports cars or flying private jets or anything like that by any means, but they have enough where they don't have to worry about it. And yeah, I think the experience with money is going to be very different from my oldest brother, because I'm the middle child, so there's 5 of us. So if you were to ask my oldest brother and my youngest brother, they probably have very different stories than me.
I bet way different.
Yeah. So anyway, like I came up kind of normal, I would say, not kind of somewhere in the middle. So anyway, what about you, Jaden?
Yeah, well, it's pretty similar for me, just because my dad was also doing the same, growing a business and stuff. And I remember pretty clearly at one point having quite a bit of money, right? And like we had all the toys, and we were going on trips all the time, like to the sand dunes, like not vacations and like cruises and that type of stuff. We're going to like camping and have the big fifth wheel and all the toys and stuff. And then like 2008 and 2009 hit. And so we ended up my dad ended up selling a bunch of stuff, and he had money, and like I never really, while I was that age, thought we didn't have money. Kind of talking to him now in retrospect, like it was quite a struggle. And I think I could tell there was like, it was a bad situation at a bad time, but I didn't never really see it as like a kid, other than seeing that they were selling toys.
Like, hey, that's my dirt bike.
Like, like selling, he had a Corvette at the time. He sold the Corvette. He sold like his really nice truck and bought a cheaper truck, which that ended up biting him in the butt because it was a piece of crap. So, so like it was pretty new, but it was a Ford with a 6.0 Power Stroke, and it was like pretty new, but it was way cheaper than his that he had at the time. And anyways, there's a couple things I saw that like he sold and got like scaled back a little bit, but I never, other than that, thought, oh yeah, we don't have any money. Now you talk to my brothers and sisters, or my brothers and my sister, they probably don't remember that as well, because I'm the oldest. So like
They were way young.
they like my sister maybe remembers some. My 2 younger brothers probably not. They have a completely different upbringing, and my dad's doing really well now. And like I saw a little bit at the beginning when he was doing really well, and then through the recession, and then after that, like building back up. And when I started working for him, he was, really rebuilding after that. I think I started working for him full time 2016 when I graduated, but I had done summers before that. By that point, he was like kind of caught up to the point that he was pre-recession. So it's like I really didn't feel like I grew up rich, but it was, we were well off. And then, you talk to people that knew me, they knew we had a big house. It was like,
You guys were rich.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I'd look at their situation, and like I didn't really get all these fancy like toys, and like I never really got bought a bunch of fancy stuff and new things and cars and stuff. Like I just wasn't, like, if I wanted a toy like a dirt bike, I had to go buy it.
Yeah.
If I wanted a truck, I had to go buy it. Like it was all that stuff. They all got handed that crap. So it's like I saw a bunch of interesting things. A bunch of, like, you go talk to my siblings, they grow up with quite a bit more. But I didn't ever feel like we didn't have anything, but you could tell when I was growing up that there was something. Yeah. It was through that recession time, so.
Yeah. So pretty, like, none of us went hungry. None of us, like we were all, food on the table, roof over our heads. But different experiences in some ways, right?
And my dad, I mean, one thing I remember through my whole childhood is how hard he worked and was working all the time. Yeah. And I always saw that as like, yeah, he has to work so hard for us to have all of this stuff. And, you know, all these other kids, like their parents barely, you know, they don't really have anything nice, but they have a lot of stuff. And it's like, they're looking at me thinking we're privileged, but I'm like seeing it and I'm like, my dad works his butt off.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? And they don't know that. And so it's just a bunch of weird stigmas that people have. And it's,
So to go along with that, like in the sense of money, there's a lot of negativity on social media that rich people, it was all given to them, right? Through their family and stuff. Did you guys in your businesses, what you're doing, your jobs, you know, whatever you've done to get to this point, did mommy and daddy provide all of it?
None of it. I've had to pay for all my mistakes. I'd have to pay for all my equipment for my home maintenance business or the podcast business. Never taken out a loan or borrowed money from them. I kind of like, sometimes I consider it like it would be nice to get some other things, but you know, I don't know. I also grew up with my dad doing everything himself and not, you know, trying to, you know, his best to not have to borrow money. And so that's just, I guess, how I think now is try not to borrow. But there are times where it does make sense. But, you know, I guess that's probably a really controversial topic. Some people will be like, oh, no, especially like Dave Ramsey. But I think sometimes you just got to do what makes sense for you. But yeah, no, I didn't have anything given to me or nothing.
Yeah. I mean, like like I said, I had to buy my vehicles and my dad didn't ever make me do it all on my own.
So there was support.
His dad didn't help him with anything. And he was also the oldest and the oldest of like 7 kids or something. And his dad didn't help him at all. And my dad would help me if I needed it. Like I remember I bought my first dirt bike. It was like $2,000. And I think I paid for like $1,700 of it or something. And he helped me out. And like, obviously looking at it now, like that's not that big a deal for him. But for me, it was like, oh no, like
$300.
like that's a ton of money. And anyways, like if I ever had issues with vehicles, like he'd help me out and stuff. But with my schooling, I paid for it all. And I didn't want to ask them for money. It wasn't like a thought in my mind that I need to ask them to help me pay for stuff. I'm doing it on my own. Like I'm earning my money. I'm paying for it myself, which is funny because, you know, I would see like, you know, a lot of friends just be given stuff and then they would think that I'm given stuff. You know, I think of an example recently. One of my younger brothers just bought a Suron and their little electric bikes are like $4,000.
Wow.
He worked all summer to save that money up and bought it. And his, like a bunch of kids at school are like, haha, must be nice. Your dad's giving that to you. And he's like, I freaking bought it myself.
Yeah.
Like I worked all summer. What the heck were you doing? And it's like, people don't see that. But like kids, you know, they're coming from a family where they don't have enough money to do something like that. Their parents don't. And so they're not going to. And so they think that other kids can't like make the money. Like they're not, you know, we earned money by working, basically. We weren't given stuff.
Yeah, I remember when, I was probably like 22, something like that. I bought a brand new BMW in cash. Well, not brand new BMW, new to me. But me and my brother both bought BMWs about the same time. And one of my dad's mechanics that, you know, worked on his, you know, the landscaping vehicles, he was like, wow, your dad's making too much money buying you these BMWs. And I was so like mad about that. I was like, dude, I worked my tail off and saved.
Well, it's dumb because like it diminishes your input.
Yeah. Like, yeah. Anyway.
Like, so like,
I wish daddy bought it, right?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, and it was always interesting to me because there was always people like that. And oh, wow. And those are the same people that their parents actually did buy them a car. But they're looking at like me because we have some nice stuff that's not even mine that I remember one time I was out and about in my dad's truck and I was at AutoZone getting stuff for mine because it was broken down. Like I was doing stuff on it. And I saw a kid from high school and he was like, nice truck. And I'm like, yeah, thanks. And then like, he was leaving with all of his little buddies in the car, and they were my age. I knew them all, and he was like, "Daddy's money," and like as they're driving away, and I'm like, "It's his truck." I'm literally driving it to AutoZone to buy stuff for my truck.
Yeah.
Because it's broken down. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. That's how my experience has been too. Like my mom and dad haven't, the only thing I can think of is for the first 6 months or a year of me being married, they're like, you can stay on our phone plan. Like, we'll pay your phone. Like, that was it, right? And I was like, cool. You know, I got a phone. Like, they paid for the phone plan and stuff. I was like, all right, sweet. Because it's way cheaper to be on a family plan than me get my own. And that was it. So it's been my experience of that too. Like, everything that I have now, my wife and I have earned it, you know, built it, bought it, saved up for it, done all that. And there's a lot of sense of pride in that.
Yeah.
You know? And, like, I appreciate that. Like, there's been sometimes I'm like, man, I wish my mom and dad had a big, massive company that I could just take over. It'd be so easy, right? But my whole perspective of, you know, building and saving and doing it all myself and learning about it, it's been so valuable that I notice a lot of people our age don't have, you know? And there's a lot of people think they can't get started with, you know, their goals or their dreams or, you know, starting a business or buying a house or, you know, whatever their financial goal is, because they don't have all those things. It's like you're so much closer to accomplishing those goals than you honestly think. Like, I remember before like in 2021, 2022, I was like, there's no way we could build a house. Like, we had the goal, we had the house plans, we had started moving in that way, and I was like, there's no way, we can't afford it. And it was amazing that we like set our mind to that, and, you know, March 2023, we moved into our new home. And I'm like, wow, when we first looked at this project, it was an impossible task. So it's amazing how much you can grow and save and, you know, grow your income in a short amount of time with the right focus and discipline. So that's been my experience. And like, you know, Skylar, you said like no debt. I have no business debt, none of those things. It's all been off just hey, this is all we got. We got to make it work, you know, and there's a lot of value in that. So I think there's a lot of people, they allow money to hold them back in pursuing their goals and their dreams because they don't think they have anything, or they don't have money. Man, there's so many creative ways to accomplish things in any type of goal that you have, right? So many ways.
Yeah. On that, I'm grateful that growing up and working in my dad's company, that I didn't just get given a bunch of stuff. Like, I had to earn, you know, the money I made, and I was paid according to my skills, not just because I'm the boss's kid.
Yeah.
Like, the whole boss's son stuff always makes me a little bit annoyed. Like, oh, you're just the boss's son and stuff. It's like,
You're like, dang right. Step in line, boy.
my gosh, I have always had to, or felt like I need to be putting in as much effort as possible and learning as much as possible. And like, that type of stuff just like diminishes that. But it's like, but there are some people out there, like there are people out there that grow up in those companies that don't really do anything, and they get paid a ton.
Yeah, they're just on salary
and they just like are given this stuff. Like, I remember, you know, while I was going to school and working for him, I wasn't really making very much money, and through the winters, it's not very good for concrete. So like, we were getting 20 hours a week, and I'm like paying for my vehicle and for school and working off of 20 hours a week because I can't, like, not only can I not work as much, I'm going to class. And it's those times that I'm grateful for, that I was working towards putting myself through this type of situation and learning those skills, learning the management skills, learning how to, like, you know, make these things happen for myself.
Yeah, that's cool. That's way cool. When my wife and I first got married, I was like dead set on learning what money is and how money works because of my experience growing up. I'm like, okay, what do I have to do to not experience like what my family experienced? Even though I'm grateful for it, it taught me a lot. Like, it was good, and we never went without in ways. I'm like, how do I reverse that so that we can be, you know, more financially stable? And that's literally been my mission since I graduated high school. I've studied it for over 10 years now. And I want to just kind of share some advice. Like, we've already been talking for quite a while. I'd like to throw some advice in here for the listeners about money that literally changed my wife and I's life. And to this day, like I tell my wife, my superpower in business is my understanding of money and how to manage it. Just in business and our personal financial life, like some months will become super expensive, like Christmas, right? There's just so much going on and this family party, and I'm like, oh man, we spent a lot this month. And I'm kind of like worried for bills to come, and it like always works out. And I'm like, holy crap, this system works. So I want to kind of share some of these things. So I started studying money. I started reading books and listening to podcasts, and a lot of different people, a lot of people pick one person, like Skylar, you mentioned Dave Ramsey, and they only stick to Dave Ramsey. That's just one side of the spectrum of money education, right? That's just his perspective. There's a lot of people. So I started studying these things, and I come across a book called The Richest Man in Babylon. And then another book called The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. Have you guys read either one of those?
Richest Man in Babylon.
Yeah, okay.
That's a great book.
Great book, right? So in all this study, I started learning the topic and the advice of pay yourself first. And this whole conversation was, we work, right? Let's say you work 40 hours a week and you're making $20 an hour and The first thing you do is, pay your house payment, your car payment, your whatever your bills are. And then you save last, right? I mean, you've read the book, so you get this, right, Skylar? And the whole thing about all of this education stuff is to reverse that. Like, you got to start paying yourself first, and you've got to tell your money what to do. Well, when my wife and I got married, I wasn't even making $1,000 a month. Like, a lot of the times my paychecks were like $800 to $900, and my wife wasn't working. So we had, our rent was $550 a month, and then we didn't have any car payments or anything after that, but like groceries and fuel and stuff like that. So it was tight, right? So I started learning this concept of pay yourself first, and I'm like, how do you pay yourself first when you're broke? And I was like, okay. So I created this Excel sheet, and I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. So the first month I paid myself $25. And I'm like, all right, $25. Like, I don't know what we're going to cut out, but I'm going to pay. So I opened a savings account, put $25 in there. Well, went throughout that next month, and I didn't notice a lack of anything. There was no lack of nothing. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. So I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it and studying and learning. And then I started gamifying it, right? Like, that's kind of a topic here. I started gamifying it, like, could I do 30? Could I do 35? Could I do 40? Could I do 50? And I'd literally get paid, save the money, get paid, save the money, and then pay everything else after. And a year went by, and I look in that savings account, and there's almost $1,000. And I'm like, what? How the heck did we save $1,000 when I'm not even making $1,000 a month? And it really clicked for me. And so we moved into another apartment. My wife got a job. I started my business. Our income started growing, and I kept challenging this. How much could we save? How much could we save? And I got to the point where the most we ever put into a savings account was 33% of our income. And we did this for 5 years. My wife was going to school. I was building my business. We had very little debt, or like we had no debt. We were renting, like our expenses were super low, and we saved a lot of money. And I look back at that time and I'm like, that is what has allowed us to build our house, me start my business and cash flow my business, and then know how to manage my business finances and my personal finances. And then I've just grown it from there, of the proper way to use credit cards, the proper way to leverage debt, the proper way to do some things. And that tool right there, I love to give advice to people, the whole system of pay yourself first, because it changed everything for my wife and I's life, everything.
I even saw somebody recently, and I don't know if I've heard that concept until recently, but he was saying, pay yourself before you even pay like your credit card debts. Because like nobody is going to force you to pay yourself.
Nope.
You're forced to pay all those other things, but nobody's going to force you to pay yourself. So
if you change that one thing, it's crazy.
What about rewarding yourself? Is that something
Is that
you
basically
do?
the same? Or
That's a good question.
Yeah,
I've got a truck sitting out in the driveway.
Yeah.
That was a reward.
Yeah.
So it is a very big thing.
Yeah, I saw someone talking where when you have your business or you're making money, if it's just work and it just goes straight to your bills, there's no like benefit or reward for you. It just like there's not as much of that like achievement to you. And so what I've heard, I haven't necessarily tested this, but it's like to pay yourself first, but then take a little bit of that and take yourself out to dinner or buy yourself that nice watch you want to do, or, do those every once in a while. So that way, one, you're seeing the fruits of your labor, but two, you're like wanting to work harder or find more ways to up your income so that way you can do things like that. But if work's this negative thing where you're just working hard and then all the money just leaves and there's this negative energy around money, like that's going to affect it.
That's what happened to me. So I got so focused on saving. One thing I did do, and I'd advise everybody to do this if you're married, I mean, even if you're single or something too, I opened a separate saving account with my wife's name labeled on it and another savings account with my name labeled on it. And we started, my wife got 25, I got 25 a month. And she could buy whatever she wanted. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, like, she'd buy something, I was like, that's stupid. And I'm like, well, it was your money, I don't care, right? Like, it was, I have no say, she has no say. And so we've grown that over time of how much we're giving ourselves. But another thing, I got so focused on saving. I wanted to go hunting. I wanted to do all these things, and I never did it because I'm like, no, that'll cost money. You guys, my wife and I together weren't even making $50,000 a year, and we had over $50,000 saved in accounts.
That's awesome.
Using the system. And I was in a broke mindset, so that's where the mindset thing comes in. And I started talking about a dirt bike. This is actually how Jaden and I connected. It was over dirt bikes, right?
Yeah.
But I had my sights on a dirt bike, and I was like just obsessing over it. I'm like, I want to buy myself something. We got all this money. I never enjoy anything. I never do anything for myself. All I do is work and save. I was getting burnt, and my wife could see it. And I was talking about a dirt bike, and she looked at me one day. She's like, shut up. Go buy the freaking dirt bike, and I don't want to hear another thing about it. And I was like really? Because it's like $10,000. And she's like, if I hear one more thing about it, I'm going to punch you in the face. Like, she was done with it. I went and bought the dirt bike. My business grew. Wow. And she's like, and I was like, wait a minute, hold the freaking phone, right? Because I was like, wait, I rewarded myself and I'm enjoying this. And I didn't even do anything extra. I actually had phone calls and stuff coming into my business. And I was like, whoa, this energy transfer, money in, money out, money in, money out, right? The whole concept of that is think of water, like in a pond or a lake. If you stop the flow of water coming in and out, what happens? Tons of bacteria, algae, all these things, right? The water's like, animals won't drink the water because of how polluted it is. Money's the exact same way. You gotta have money flowing in, but if money's not flowing out, you're actually shutting off that flow, and now you have pollution within the pool. And I learned this concept through buying the dirt bike, and then made the connections through the coaches and things that I joined. And so now my wife and I have like a pretty big reward type system set up for us. I set a goal for like open enrollment. I'm like, hey, if I accomplish this goal, I'm gonna go buy me a new set of golf clubs. So you gotta do it, right? So rewards is huge, because if you're not enjoying it, what the freak is the point of working? You know, it's a tool. It's a good tool to be used.
So none of us are millionaires here, at least I don't think. But what are some things you guys have done to...
Mentally, we are.
Yeah, mentally, right? Just waiting for the bank account to catch up.
Right.
What are some things you guys have done that have increased your income?
Really?
Like specific steps for listeners to implement into their lives. Now, one, we were talking about, the saving and then the rewarding yourself, but what are some other things you guys do regularly that, hey, this impacts my bank account?
I think a pretty common topic off camera, off audio that all three of us have talked about is coaches, investing into ourselves to gain new knowledge, skills. That's a big thing that's been for me.
Yeah. For me, I think, learning, really. And it's coaches. And, I tell people about this all the time, because there's a lot of people that don't believe or can't believe that I would pay $300 a month to be in the Lion's Den, which I paid for, I think, a year and a half. I paid $300 a month to be in the Lion's Den. We didn't have much going for us, and not like we really do right now, but I think, $300 a month over a year is $5,000 or something, right? I've easily tripled that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
From the business, just from being in it. Easily. I mean, like the business that we've gotten through our website stuff has all been from people in the Lion's Den, just from connecting with people and, and I mean, even, I even concrete work I've done. Like it's being in the right place, making connections with people and meeting people and learning
Well, I met
being
you through
open.
the Lions Den.
Yeah.
Then you did side project for me at my house.
Yeah,
Some
and
network.
it's like that right there, being open and learning is what has made it a huge difference for me.
I think we all originally connected through the Lion's Den.
Yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you came to an event that I was speaking at, and you probably found that through the Lions Den.
Yeah,
right?
the first time I saw Jaden, he was speaking on stage. I was like, wow, this big
Well,
hot shot guy.
Look at this chump.
Look at this chump. Thinks he's all cool.
Yeah, up there talking about knees over toes and shit while I was up on the stage.
It was good. It was good.
That was my first time being on a stage other than like through a church setting. It was crazy.
You looked very comfortable.
I didn't feel comfortable, but that was
good.
That was after how long? 6 months of podcasting. That was way easier than sitting in front of a camera watching myself recording a solo episode. Like, because I record on my laptop, and so I see my face. Like, I use my laptop camera, and I see my face right in front of me. So I'm like sitting there talking to my camera and have to come up with 30 minutes of stuff looking at me. Like the whole time. That's hard. That's way harder than being up on a stage. And I had spoken in church probably, I mean, when I was like, 16, 17, 18, I think I probably spoke 4 or 5 times in church, and then would always, like, it's not like I feel.
That's so different than all this kind of stuff, huh?
It's crazy. And it was way better. And like, you're up at a pulpit and, all that stuff. Like, you have notes. Like, I didn't have notes up there, and I did, but I wasn't looking at them. Like, it was uncomfortable. But like, you could chalk up all of that stuff to being open, learning, and chasing opportunities to grow.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad you brought up the Lion's Den and like the people you connected with, because my main thing that has helped me is the networking. It's meeting new people like both of you, and actually taking the time to go to events like where I met you, Jaden, and different coaching groups or networking groups on even Facebook. Like, there's 1,000 Facebook groups out there that you could connect with a lot of people with. But it's that one-to-one contact that has really made a difference for me. And it's free, so why not do that? And that's actually what me and Jared talked about on the podcast. He was I think you were episode
3.
It was like my 3rd or 4th interview.
Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah.
So if you go listen to that on Utah Hustlers podcast, we talk in depth on the networking, and but that for me has made me more money than anything else has. And I think that's what you said about yours too, is because you get referrals and then,
building relationships.
Yeah. So it's the relationships that have made more money for me, and it's like those sayings. It's like the more hands you shake, the more money you make.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Well, there's all those sayings, and a lot of it's like, you also got to be at least somewhat likable to people and figure out how to be likable in person. And if you don't ever go out of your way to do that, like, you're not going to be. And nobody's going to like you, and nobody's going to want to give you money, because people buy you. They're not buying your products.
Well, and like coaches, the networking, relationships, all those things, you can invest into those things. But one thing I've had to learn with money is expect to win. Like, if I'm, some people invest to not to lose. They're like, oh, I want to invest into stocks, but I don't want to lose. Well, you're going to freaking lose because you're betting to not lose. Bet to win.
Well, this goes to
expect to win.
This goes to your upgrade mindset thinking, because one of the exercises is asking, what do you want? And people are like, well, I don't want this, or I don't want this to happen. And they're like, no. What do you want? Not what do you not want?
Yeah.
So that's an important distinction to make, because if you only focus on what you don't want, then you're going to be like constantly thinking about that and trying to avoid it. And all that's going to do is like bring it into your life.
Yep.
And you're not going to get to where you do want to go, because you're not making it.
What you think about, you bring about. Yeah. That's, you remember how I talked about the whole like lake or pond, river?
Yeah.
It's energy. A lot of people, I look at how a lot of people give the advice of solve problems and, help people. That is the core. That is like the outer shell, but the core is actually connecting the correct energy. Because like, if I'm a construction worker and I need a good website, and all of a sudden I come in connection with Jaden, or I need a good podcast, something for my business, and I come in connection with Skylar, that was an energy transaction where our energy was connected to solve a problem, right? So money is energy. Literally everything in this world, in the whole freaking universe, is a form of energy. And so money literally is an energy. So when we connect our energy, like I'm sure you guys have maybe had business opportunity or something come up or whatever, and you're like, whoa, we were really profitable right there. Like, why? Like, if you really dissect that, there was an energy connection. Like, if you really take some time and journal about that, like, what was the experience? What happened? So that's a big thing I've been working on in my business. I'm like, I physically only have so many hours in a day, and I can only work so hard and handle so many phone calls and so many clients and those things. But what I can do is I can work on myself personally and create a better energy to attract, energy-wise, the correct clients, the correct opportunities, the things that I'm looking for. It's all an energy transaction. So a lot of people look at money as a physical monetary type thing, which it is, and that's how we use it, but it's actually an energy thing. Like if you meet people that are really wealthy or have a lot of money, they're just freaking people.
Yeah.
But they have an energy about them. Mm-hmm. That is one thing I've started to pick up. I'm like, wow, their energy is different, and they're not arrogant. They're not nothing. Their energy, like they expect that financial energy to be in their life. Like it's a standard. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. They actually work less hard than a lot of people. They just have the correct energy and mindset.
There's something to be said there about, the way you think attracts money or not. I don't remember the exact quote, but there's someone has that I've seen on Instagram. Like we see a lot of stuff on Instagram and just like completely forget about it. But somebody was saying that you attract money. Like you need to be in a mindset or a state of being that attracts the money. And if you're scarcity mindset, that does not attract money to you.
Nope.
At all.
Something I saw recently on Instagram, I'm glad you said that, is treat money like a person. So kind of like how you treat your girl or your guy, who's ever listening. So for me, like if I want to attract a woman or to maintain a woman and keep her in my life, I'm going to text her regularly. I'm going to call her. I'm going to think about her. I'm going to...
Yeah, if you walk up to her and said, you're not important to me, she gone.
Yep. Uh-huh. And so something I've been taught from one of my coaches is literally have every single dollar bill. So like right now in my wallet, if you're watching on video, I got every single dollar bill in my pocket. And I've noticed since I've put these in, I've actually had more money come my way. So I have the 1, 2, 5, 10, 20, 10,
organized,
100.
and the faces are the same way.
And they say to memorize the names and to look at each one and say, hello, so glad you're here. And to have the same excitement about a $1 bill as a $100 bill.
Yep.
Because there's still a win, right? There's still energy here, but you don't want the negative energy towards a little bit of money. Because then why would the 100 come your way if that's how you treat money? Just like a person in your life.
Yep.
So
I love that. Yeah. If you walked up to somebody like, you're not important to me, they're not going to be in your life. Yeah. Same thing with money. I got a lot of broke family members, and I hear all the time
how money's not important.
Or I could never buy that. And I'm like, yeah, no crap.
Yeah. Because you don't care.
You don't care. You don't believe in it. You don't think it's important. You don't treat it with respect. You don't give it good energy. It's an energy thing. When my wife and I, when we started learning these things and changed those things, we noticed more money coming into our lives as well. Mm-hmm. Like, wow, it's everywhere.
Because if you go to like if I go to my girl and say, hey, like I'm never getting enough time with you, I never get enough of this or that, like just constant complaining, just like she would probably leave and be gone.
Well, that's all that you would see too.
That's all I would see too, right? It's
you wouldn't see the amount of time you actually do spend. It's just the amount of time you don't spend.
Exactly. So it's noticing those things. Like if you're going to drive from here to Ogden, and someone asks you when you get there, how many red cars did you see? You're going to be like, I don't know, maybe one. I don't know. But if I tell you before you leave, notice every red car and keep a count. You'll notice everyone. Yeah. You're going to you're going to actually notice it. So yeah, a lot of it's about like the mindset, like focusing on the right thing. So do the same thing with money.
Yeah. And then you got to become a good steward of money. You got to have that good energy. But if you're not a good steward of money, The Richest Man of Babylon will talk about that. You guys got to read that book. They'll talk about that. Like you have to be a good steward of money. And Babylon was a very rich city. And just the history there of what they learned about money and the people that became very wealthy, the skills and knowledge about money that they learned. It's just mind blowing, and it's very applicable today. I mean, it's thousands of years later, and it is the exact same principle. Money works off the same principles. Like, it does not change. So that become very important to me to learn what money is, how money works, you know, what is the energy of money. And then when I get it, like, what should I do with it? Right? Like, if it just sits in your bank account and does nothing, it's going to go find somebody else that will do something with it because it's an energy thing.
Yeah.
That's a crazy, actually, when I graduated high school, I started working in the oil field. I was making $18 an hour as a single freaking 18-year-old. To me, that was, I had a lot of money, right? Yeah, like back then I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know what to do with it. Yeah. And I actually started cashing it out of the bank, and I'd put it under my mattress. This is freaking crazy. I would put it under my mattress. And funny thing about that, you know, when you like set your mattress down, it kind of creates a wind. Well, one time, I guess it did that. And I like lift up my mattress, and there was a bunch of money gone. And I'm like, somebody's freaking stealing, you know? And I lifted my mattress up further, and it all like blown under the bed. And I'm like, this is the stupidest place to keep money. But I was in complete scarcity. But at that time, you guys, I was paying a family member $200 a month for the room, and I had a vehicle payment for $300. I was making over $2,000. My expenses were $500, maybe $800 with food and stuff. And every month I was out of money. I'm like, what the crap? Well, I learned I wasn't giving money a proper place or a purpose. So it was going and finding somebody else that would. Yeah. You change that one thing. You learn the proper thing of what to do with money and give it purpose. You will find more money in your life instantly right now.
Yeah. Well, if you don't save money with a purpose, then it's not going to stay either. Like, I've noticed that in particular, like, if I'm not actively putting money into a specific account or investing it, it doesn't stay. It finds a way.
It's got to have a label.
Literally, your mind finds a way to just spend it. Oh yeah, you know, just ship it away.
It's gone.
Yeah,
yeah. Like I said, I built an Excel sheet, and in my Excel sheet, I have multiple savings account and stuff, and everything's labeled a purpose, and then I transfer, pay the bills, done. Like, every freaking penny every month has a job. And that was the biggest thing my wife and I changed, where we saved up a good amount of money and continue to giving it that purpose. You know, from that time till now, I never opened up my bank account. I'm like, wow, where's it all going? I hear that all the time. I've had a cool opportunity in my business to coach a lot of people in this and help them set up this system that I use. And they're always, I'll get done and I'm like, hey, your expenses to this, you have $1,500 extra. And they're like, no, I don't. I'm like, well, okay, let's go through it again. I literally had a guy in Wyoming. I went through this whole thing with his wife, showed him my Excel sheet, how I manage things and do things. And there was $1,770. And he's like, we do not have $1,770 left over. I'm like, okay, let's go through it again. We went through it 100% again, and we actually changed things. He overspent, and then it went to like $1,900. And I was like, what are you guys doing with that money? He's like, we do not have $1,900 left over every month. I'm like, okay, we're going to change this one thing. We gave it a purpose. They were like, we'd really like to pay off some credit cards and do some things. They were like, it's going to take us 1.5 years to pay these things off. 3 months later, their credit cards are paid off and all that because they gave all that money a purpose. And I'm like, that's all you got to change. Like, people think they're broke and they need to go make more money. No, solve the problem of telling your money what to do first. And then it's just crazy. So it's wild.
Is it the richest man in Babylon where they talk about having like a bucket and you put it might be something else, but like you want to patch the holes in the bucket where you're losing water, losing money. It might be something else.
God, I recognize something like that. There's so many different versions of Richest Man in Babylon. Have you ever noticed there's like 4 different ones or something? Yeah. So it may be something with that.
Yeah, but just it probably was something else. But just having your bucket, your bank account, your bucket of money, and there are a lot of sometimes holes in our bucket that where we're losing it. And so just look at your expenses and then do exactly what you did. Have an Excel sheet and then give everyone
where
it's
all going.
Yeah.
That's like these apps that'll tell you your subscriptions because maybe you forgot. I'm like, that's freaking ridiculous. If people need a subscription to tell them what their subscription is in, I'm like, this is the problem in America. This is why statistically Americans can't even come up with $500 without the use of a credit card or debt. That's why. I'm like,
$500?
That's the statistic right now.
My
$500.
I couldn't even imagine that.
That's scary. I can tell you I wouldn't be sleeping because I'd be working. Yeah. Like, if I couldn't come up with $500, I got a bigger problem.
Crap.
That's the statistic.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So like But I guarantee if you took every one of those people that couldn't come up with 500 and in 45 minutes, we went through their money. I bet we could find tons of money. Tons of money that it's just leaving. It's going. It's no purpose or plan. They don't know what to do with it. That's the biggest problem.
Well, the upgrade program teaches you a lot about being mindful about that type of stuff and about what you want.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that specifically of how the world is such a stuff-driven world. We're a stuff-driven economy. People want to buy stuff, but it's not conscious buy stuff. It's subconsciously buy stuff, maybe because other people are, maybe because you see an ad. Everybody's trying to get you to spend money and buy things, and you just do, but not consciously.
It's a subconscious program.
It's subconsciously just, oh yeah, money here, buy this, buy that. But why?
You want to know why I think?
Why?
Actually, why I know I think? Because of the coaching I've gone through.
Yeah.
Like I had a programming where I was saving, like just only saving, but then also I'd like get rid of money in some ways, some stupid ways. Well, maybe we were taught when we were kids, money's bad. So if all of a sudden we get a paycheck and there's extra, we think that's bad. Our subconscious mind is like, oh, money's bad. You need to get rid of that. So something pops up on an ad or something, you're like, I got to buy it. It'll get rid of that money and I will satisfy my programming.
Well, and some
Does that
people
make sense?
some people might hear that and think that that's dumb, but imagine how many different ways you can subconsciously come to believe that money's bad. If you hear your parents argue about money,
Money doesn't grow on trees. What do you think? I'm made of money?
well, that's
You ever heard of that
subconsciously
crap?
telling you money's bad.
Yeah.
And in your mind is like, I can't keep
I
this
don't want to
stuff.
be bad. I got to get rid of it.
Yeah.
I'll be a bad person if I have money. I gotta
Even
get
though
rid of
you're not consciously putting that together, your mind is like, you're like,
subconscious program.
yeah.
Yep.
Don't want to see that money. Yeah.
Yep.
And why would you ever want to be rich if all the millionaires are scamming people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Bunch of
doing all-
scumbags, right?
Uh-huh,
Yeah. So then there's a negative thing right there about money.
Yeah.
And the type of people that have a lot of money. So don't have a lot of money because then you have to be this person.
And you're a bad
'Cause
person.
Yeah.
Right? So understanding the subconscious of all of it, the management of it, being a good steward of it, good energy with it, the flow of it, there's a lot of beautiful things. This is one thing that I look at, we can put a negative connotation about having nice things, but God gave man and woman and human knowledge and ability to create these things. Mm-hmm. Why not enjoy them? Mm-hmm. Because I went and bought a truck. You guys have all your vehicles and, we all have our stuff. Well, guess what? Somebody sold us that. So they made money. Somebody made it. They made money. A worker, put that tire together. A worker da-da-da-da-da-da. Like the reason why America is so prosperous is because of capitalism.
Yeah.
It all comes down to
money,
capitalism.
money's changing hands
Yeah,
constantly,
money's
all the time.
like the only reason why we're in a so-called kind of a slow time right now is because media pushed it.
Yeah.
And so everybody started holding back.
Yeah, holding
you
back
open
and
the floodgates
spending, yeah.
again and people spending, our economy will explode again. That's all it is. So I can look at it and be like, well, I could have taken the money that I bought my vehicle with or our home and, given it to the charity and stuff. It's like, yeah, but do you know how many people we employed by doing that? So there's value there. So why do we have a negative connotation about having nice things? It grows everybody. It provides jobs. It's such a good thing, Like when you really have that perspective, you're almost like, dang, I want to go spend money right now to grow our economy and make everything better.
Yeah.
I invite you guys to try something. Next time you go out to eat, tip bigger than you've ever tipped and see how it feels. And expect that it's an investment. You see, every time you go spend money, you're not spending money, you're not losing money, you're actually investing into yourself. Whether it's food, whether it's buying yourself something, whether it's giving to a charity something, invest and expect something back. And it doesn't have to be a monetary something back, but hey, let's say I tip somebody really good and the waiter comes up, chases me out the door and says, thank you so much. You don't know how much that means because my family's actually going through this. I just received a good feeling because I helped them in a way. So expect to receive something back. It's an investment. So every time now, even yesterday, I was buying fuel for my truck. I had to come down to Salt Lake and I was fueling up my truck and I hit the tap thing and I said, I'm investing into getting home. I'm investing. I'm not spending money. I'm not losing it. It's not going away. I'm investing and it's going to come back in some way. in some form of an energy.
I like that a lot. I like that.
Yeah. Dang, this one's gone.
Yeah, this
long.
one's. Let's keep going.
They've all got longer.
Yeah, they have. Yeah. Well, is there anything else we want to? Anything you guys want to add?
I think the biggest thing there is give money a purpose. You know, be intentional. I think, you know, as we've been going through this 4-part series, intentionality has become a huge theme. Be intentional with intentional with, you know, what you're looking at, what you're putting into your mind, intentional with what you're doing with your body, with your money, everything.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I would just say invest in yourself. Know your worth, as much money as you want to make, and yeah, I don't know, just like bring that positive energy towards money and yourself. And if you can, get one of every single dollar bill and keep it in your wallet. Keep it with you all the time. Take money with you.
I like that. I've never done that. I like that advice. It's an energy thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. That's way cool. Okay, everybody. Thanks for listening. Yeah. Do you have something else?
No, I was just gonna say I'll probably have to start getting cash more often because I almost never have any.
Me
cash.
neither.
Yeah,
me neither. Cash is hard. Yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Catch you on the next one.